from Jerusalem are joined by Nevo Kehn, who is an Israeli strategist who also advises Israel's Ministry of National Security. Welcome to Newsday. Let's start off by talking about Al-Shifa Hospital, if we can, and that accusation by Hamas that the attack was purely about sabotaging talks. Is Israel committed to trying to find an agreement that would allow a ceasefire to take place, aid to go into Gaza, and for the hostages to be returned to Israel?
Well, let's start first by using the right terms. And Shifa is, first of all, a terrorist compound, which sometimes they use as a hospital. But don't be mistaken.
Well, we've spoken to Western doctors who've been to Al-Shifa many times over the years who confirm there are doctors and operating theatres and everything that is to do with a hospital. So it is a hospital.
Not during the war. Again, please be specific and be accurate. During the war, Shifa is a terrorist compound and it's sheltering terrorists. And what Israel is doing is targeting those terrorists, sometimes killing them, sometimes taking them to justice. But don't be mistaken that Shifa is solely a hospital, which is not.
Okay, so you are acknowledging it is primarily a hospital. There may be Hamas militants in it, which you're telling me there are, but it is primarily a hospital.
It's not few militants. It's hundreds of terrorists who beheaded children and babies. This is not few militants. Be accurate.
This is the fourth time, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. Hang on, you haven't heard the question yet. Hang on, don't answer a question you haven't heard. This is the fourth time, according to the Gazan Health Ministry, that Israeli forces have gone into Al-Shifa, which does suggest that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have not yet been able to get all of the people they think are in and around that hospital if they have to keep going back in. So what's going wrong with the strategy?
Great question. Because by some of the international media, when using the wrong terms as hospital to a terrorist compound, it makes it a bit difficult for my country to get it over with. So the sheltering for terrorists in Shifa gets the sheltering and the understanding of some of the world media that it's just a hospital, and why Israel is doing that. So maybe if Israel got support from international media outlets, such as the BBC, of course, it might have helped Israel to actually clear out of the entire population of terrorists using this hospital as their shelter.
Let's talk about the talks which are taking place. We've got Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, going to Saudi Arabia today and then on to Egypt. America, of course, is Israel's closest ally, has been providing large amounts of money and also weaponry for Israel since and before October the 7th. The US is pretty clear, wants a ceasefire, ideally now, so more aid can go in and the hostages would be returned home. We heard the Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman say that there has been some progress. They are hopeful. Well, what is your take on how the talks are going?
Well, Hamas is holding 134 Israeli hostages, among them women, elderlies, and youth. So before talking about any kind of ceasefire, Hamas should release those hostages. Before anything else, before any talks about any kind of ceasefire.
But the Israeli government is involved in talks, though, isn't it?
These are not soldiers. These are innocent civilians, most of them. Innocent civilians taken from their beds and from their homes. So before any talks about any kind of ceasefire, Hamas should release those hostages.
But the chief of the spy agency Mossad is taking part in these talks, it's been reported. So Israel is already engaged in this process of discussion about a potential ceasefire while the hostages remain in Gaza.
This is correct. But again, in Israel, there is some kind of dispute about the way that Israel should carry on this negotiation.
The final point, Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, Joe Biden, the US President, have been clear. They would like the Palestinian Authority, which currently runs the West Bank, to also run Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has said absolutely not. Do you think there should be room for manoeuvre on this, given how much Israel relies on America for the weaponry in this war.
America is the greatest friend of Israel. Both countries have a great relationship, but we need to acknowledge the data and the numbers. In a recent poll taken in the West Bank by a Palestinian survey, but around 82% of the Palestinians of the West Bank actually support the massacre of October the 7th. So do you expect Israel to get these terrorists to replace the other terrorists? This is unbelievable. No one would go for it.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Nevo Cohen there, is Israeli strategist who also advises Israel's Ministry of National Security. They're laying bare the split there is between the Israeli government and its closest ally, the United States.